Hello, comics and pop culture people. It's your friend Brian, aka Bigby McFly, and I am joined by my friend Ricky from All Sorts of Words. And we're just hanging out tonight. Ricky messaged me on a group that doesn't exist and said, "Hey, what's everybody doing tonight?" And I said, "I think I'm hanging out with Ricky."
That's accurate. That's exactly, yeah, that's the transcript.
Did you see Steppo's unboxing on Alan's channel tonight?
No, I haven't been doing a lot of YouTube watching lately.
His giant grail. He had a big grail that he was unboxing, and spoiler alert, I'm going to tell everybody what it is. It was Batman #1. So that was pretty impressive.
Okay, I'm not gonna lie, like I'm not even jelly of that book because it's the first appearance of the Joker. I'm jelly of that book because it's the first Catwoman.
Yeah,
that's why I'm jelly of that book. Like
she has some crazy like cat mask though, right? Not a.
She does. She does. And then it's not later that they immediately change her costume not that long later, and then they also announce her name in a separate issue, and then her first cover appearance without the mask is that one with like she's peeling back the cover.
Right.
Have you seen that one?
Yeah.
But like there's a lot of Catwoman keys. I'd love to own the first Catwoman. I mean, the Joker's incidental, but I'd love to own the first Catwoman.
Oh, well, here we go. We're going to get just right into it. Brandon is here. Brandon, you were invited as well if you wanted to jump in. I know you said you were watching. Oh, hi, by the way, he says also. You said you're watching Superman 78 with the wife. I think Seppo said he paid, it was a 5.5 restored.
Let me guess. I would say like, okay, we'll play Price is Right rules. Closest without going over. I would say 65,000.
Oh, you went over.
Oh, wow. Okay, what are we doing?
The same book last sold for 60,000.
Okay, I'm in the neighborhood for the last book, but what did he pay?
And he paid 58,435, I think he said.
I mean, it's the size of a luxury sedan. I mean, the cost of a luxury sedan.
Yeah. And hey, Richard Westfall. He says hi to Brandon. Brandon says he's about to pass out. The kid's killing him. So I get that, buddy. But yeah, so it's going to be a abbreviated session with me and Ricky too. Ricky, we need a safe word. You need to say.
I'll say I'm tired. I would like to go to bed now.
I would like to sleep now, sir. Good night. Hey, Dave. West Coast Dave Avengers saying hi. Have you had the pleasure?
Why can't I see how many people are watching? It's not letting me see.
I see we have 4 watching right now.
Oh,
have you had the pleasure of hanging out on any of Dave's claim sales and buying anything from him?
Incorrect. I don't. So as of lately, like I think that would be fun. I had a whatnot phase, my slutty whatnot phase. But I think right now I'm like really attacking books with either supreme intentionality. Like it's that book. That's the book I'm going for right now. Where can I find it? How can I get it? What's the best price? Or so wildly cheap that they're literally 50 cents a book. Like that's all I have to show. I went to a flea market today and I got 50 cents a book.
Dave is telling you how many are watching. 32,029,983.
Jesus.
Just a few.
Okay.
So you went to a flea market, huh? That sounds exciting.
I did. It was really fun. There was a guy and he had a crime doesn't pay pre-code crime book for $30.
Nice.
Like, and it was all attached, probably like charitably like a 3.0, but I mean, so like 2.0 at the lowest, but it was fully attached. It was there. I was just like, I felt like passing it on. Like, I don't care about pre-code. So I was like, let the next guy get a great deal.
Yeah, I've been battling with making a list of my top 50 that I'm looking for 2024 and trying to be like laser focused, like you were talking about.
Right.
And
so the video I did, right? I said 5 books, and I got 2 of them like right away. I immediately got 2 of them.
Right, you did it. You hit your goals for next year already.
Yeah, I went after them really hard, and then this upcoming year, no joke, like I'm getting the rest this year. It's happening. And then it's like, I mean, but right now, what I'm spending my money on right now is we were talking about it earlier today in a chat that doesn't exist. I bought 2 exceedingly rare books. Like one of them has a CGC census of 2. So if when I send it off, like when I make my video and send off my first thing, it's going to be I'll have the 3rd, and then I don't know, like really low population books.
Right. Yeah. So are you going to mention them, or are you?
Oh, sure. Here, you know what? I'll go one further. We'll do visual aids. I'll pull up my my bot eBay page, make sure none of my information's on it, and then I'll share the screen and show you.
Awesome. Can you share the screen as a guest? I'm not sure.
I think so. There's a button. So someone did it in my stream. I pay for the full version, but I think if I hit present,
hey John,
yeah, share screen. You'll just have to approve it.
Awesome. Yeah, you are approved, of course.
Yeah, so no, I'm saying it'll pop up in a separate little box, like someone's trying to join the room, and then that's when you'll that's when you do it. Yeah, I saw someone did it in my stream, and I was like, oh wow, that's cool.
Right on. Yes, I was impressed with your pickups. They were quite literally some rare books that it's interesting because we have a diverse group of fellas that we talk with, and like Rohan, not a big fan of anything that's not mainstream. So he was very much poo-pooing like The Crow and all that kind of stuff.
And The Crow's great.
Yeah, yeah. Because I was talking about like getting I was talking about lower print run indie books, and he was like, yeah, he's like, it's got to be, your liquidity in your collection needs to be viable, and it needs to be big name books that you can flip within an instant. And I'm like, a lot of those indie books that have recognizable characters, the print runs are so minuscule compared to the big popular books.
Oh, sorry. Did you see it pop up in the bottom? It's like a person's trying to join the room, but it's my clip.
Not. I'm on my phone. It's not doing that. Let's see. No, it's not showing me anything special. I'm sorry. We'll just have to talk about it.
Okay, so number 1, it is Carpe Noctem number 1. It was a
we gotta like make a quiz and see if anybody in the chat knows what it is.
What is Carpe Noctem number 1?
Anyone? Carpe Noctem number 1? Dave?
It's okay. It's very obscure. I'm not blaming you. But when you hear it, you're going to go, oh, that's cool. I didn't know that. Okay. Carpe Noctem number 1 was a fanzine. Okay. Carpe Diem, seize the day. Carpe Noctem, Noctem,
seize the night.
Yeah. And it was just like goth.
That's a good guess, Dave. Dave says a book about vampires.
Close. So it's a goth fanzine where like all things just like kind of gothy, and so like gothy photography, gothy poems, gothy short story, and in this case, issue number 1, gothy comic character. It was a comic strip that was added in, and it was Yonan Vasquez, and it was the first appearance of Johnny the Homicidal Maniac. Which JTHM, like, look, I make a joke about the 90s a lot with like people who read comics. Like I'll make a statement. If you were a young male purchasing comic books in the 90s, you know who Lady Death is. It's just a fact of the universe. If you were a young male buying comic books in the 90s, you know who Dawn is.
Right.
And then you also, if you were buying comic books and reading comic books, and maybe you were a little edgy in high school, and you went to a Hot Topic, they sold the one comic book Hot Topic sold was Johnny the Homicidal Maniac. It was a big comic book in the early 2000s, like literally like 95 to like 2001. It was a huge book. The first issue had like literally like 29 printings. like printing 1
I
through
had a
28.
shop back in the 90s and through the 2000s, and it would always be number one, would always be available for order to put back on your shelf. I would put JTHM and gosh, what was the other one I was just thinking of? The Homicidal Maniac, and never mind. I'll let you go. I'll remember it. I just had another one that I was thinking of. It was right up there with that.
So in defense of the Crow, like I want to talk about Johnny, but in defense of the Crow, so y'all are no, for real though, no joke. I'm a fan of this character in this book. I'm a big fan, and I had not seen what the book looked
The
like
Otter.
outside of Key Collector.
Yeah, you said there's like less than 1,000 copies, right?
So 1,000 copies were made, and they were sold on the counters of like gothy stores that would carry them, and like comic shops if they could. But like if you were buying your like goth outfit,
the other book that was like Johnny the Homicidal Maniac that kept going back to print was Invader Zim.
Oh, Zim too. Yeah, well, this is Joan and Vasquez, same dude.
Yep.
Same dude. He's very distinct art style. I love Invader Zim. That's one that I want to go for. I'd like to get a 9.8 in that. I'm sure it's cheap. But so Johnny the
sure. Well, it's probably cheap
okay.
comparatively to other books, but I mean, and a first print is probably pretty scarce comparatively.
Not as bad as you think. Like you can get a raw high grade copy of Invader Zim 1 for like $30. Like it's not that bad. They knew what they had when they were making it. Well, because they wanted to capitalize off of Johnny, because they knew it's the same dude. Like we're making a cartoon show for a dude who literally made millions of dollars selling an indie comic of only 7 issues. We would like some of that, except for Nickelodeon. So they were all aboard. So they made a bunch of it. They were prepared.
I was reading a thing where they were like, Nickelodeon didn't realize what they bought into, but
oh, it was lovely. I loved Invader Zim. Okay, but real quick, in defense of the Crow, I
don't think the Crow really needs defending, but
well, you said a man of our own cloth was talking about how they don't get the Crow. Like part of the Crow,
he doesn't get anything indie. He just doesn't he doesn't agree with it. He just
what do you mean agree with it? Like what does that even mean?
He doesn't feel that it's a viable piece to your
portfolio
of valuable books. He thinks that they're not liquid books.
So he's just like a financial collector. He doesn't care about stories or like
he has less than 50 books in his collection.
Oh, okay. So he's one of those. That's fine. Yeah. I mean, that's one way to do it. But like, I'm here for the love. I'm here because I read a story and I love it so much that I want to.
And he also knows nothing about comics.
So I want to, when I'm reading a comic, if it's a first appearance that I own, if I own the first appearance, when I'm reading a comic and that first appearance character shows up in an entirely different comic, I feel connected to that character more. That's weird. So like, do you get that though?
Yeah, I get that.
Like you feel a sense of ownership over a character when you've laid down the money, you put your money where your mouth is, and you bought their first appearance, and you
were a part of the foundation of that book. You were a part of the growing of that character. You watched them evolve and become. Yeah, I understand completely. As I feel that same way about we were talking about Dawn, and I feel the same way about that character. When you got that, it's a Crypt or Cry.
It's literally right there. It's right there.
Okay.
It's I have my 3 comics I have set up right now are the 90s girls. It's Dawn, Vampirella 1, and Evil Ernie 1 for Lady Death. I have the 90s girls collection.
There you go. So
I mean that's a Grail run. If you were a straight boy in the 90s and you still collect comic books right now, this is like a Mount Rushmore.
Buried Under Cards. Yeah, we're talking about first appearances of 90s indie. Well, any indie books that were there's so much lower print run than a lot of those Marvel.
Yeah, and then that's the one that I got that was really for me. But the other one, the more I found that it existed, and I started educating myself on the subject matter of the second book that I bought, and I realized something interesting. So like, okay, Scooby-Doo's first appearance, right? It's that Gold Key comic, Scooby-Doo.
Right.
That is his first appearance in comics. That's not his first appearance. His first appearance is the TV show. That's the
Right.
first time
Right.
anyone sees Scooby-Doo. Space Ghost. The first time anybody sees Space Ghost is on the Hanna-Barbera cartoon. The Addams Family. The first time anybody sees the Addams Family, they were New Yorker cartoons, and they weren't called the Addams Family until he started collecting the books together and called them the Addams Family.
Right.
But the first appearance of the comics, the first appearance of comics, the Smurfs,
Yes.
first appearance
I had so
anywhere
many
in the
Smurfs when I was a
world.
little kid.
Everybody did, but the Smurfs' first appearance in anything was a comic book. I wish I could show it to you.
It's more of a graphic novel, isn't it?
No, I mean, they look like
They're
they look
larger
like a magazine.
size.
They look like a Silver Age giant size special is what they look like.
Yeah.
But they're Belgium. They're from Belgian. They're from Belgium, and it's the first appearance of the Smurfs. It was a short story called the Flute with Six Holes, and this little boy and his servant, this like little prince and his servant, find Smurfs in the woods. But it was from 1958, and it's a comic book.
Yeah, those guys all appeared in animation before they appeared in print. But what Ricky's talking about, the Smurfs all appeared in a book before they were ever considered for animation or for all the little toys that we got and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And
So the reason why I wanted that is because it's culturally significant. Like every single human being with ears listening to me talk right now has heard of the Smurfs and had something of the Smurfs purchased for them.
Right.
If not, they purchased it themselves. It's a huge part of
I have seen that book on one other channel.
Really?
Yeah. Alan is a big proponent of obscure first appearances, and he does have that book. So
me and Alan haven't caught, and then we looked it up, and the census count is like 25 for CGC. It's a really low. It's 1958, early Silver Age, and super significant.
Yeah, you and Alan have a lot. Actually, I think a lot of similar tastes in books. Like Vampirella is his one of his big loves, and you as well. And then you guys have similar thought processes as far as first appearances and that kind of stuff. So
yeah, I'm looking. So from my perspective, I don't know about his, but the mine's like as a humanities, student.
You're about the significance of characters and their relevance in history and their effect on society, right? That's
the Smurfs are going to outlast all of us. Like the Smurfs are going to live forever. When aliens come to the Earth and they're like doing that scene in the movie where they're flicking through images of all the animation that's ever existed to learn about humanity, one of those images really quickly will be the Smurfs.
Probably Smurfette.
Yeah, Smurfette, like Steamboat Mickey, Snow White, like it'll flicker super fast. I can't name them all. Ren and Stimpy, all the significant ones. One of them will be the Smurfs.
And there's another. I mean, that was Marvel, but Ren and Stimpy, another animation property that Beavis and Butthead. Yeah, a lot of that stuff.
Yeah, Rocko's Modern Life. I mean, they tried them all. I'm sure All Real Monsters had one. I'm going to look that up right now. Is there an All Real Monsters comic book?
Cool World. Yeah, I love that movie. And they had a great soundtrack, I'll say. I'm with you there, Otter. What were you looking up?
I'm looking at if there's an All Real Monsters comic book, and I don't think there is. No, there isn't.
Did they ever appear in comics? It seems like they would have appeared in something.
Okay, I keep forgetting. So, someone who doesn't like independent books, or like in viability. So before Marvel movies were even remotely passable as entertainment, and maybe with only like 2 DC movies under their belt. Two franchises, Batman and Superman. That was it. The landscape for comic book movies was sparse. It was in film as it was once in comics, not considered to be like legitimate writing. It wasn't until years later that we got like Tom Hanks in Road to Perdition, and then we're like, "Ha, I got you, bitch. That's a comic book, idiot. You didn't know."
Right, right.
So it wasn't legitimized yet. So The Crow was one of the only comic book movies that existed, 2, the only comic book movies that were any good, and then 3 got normies into this like, yo, this is like a sick movie. Yeah, it's a sick movie. It's got Brandon Lee, Bruce Lee's son. It was a sick movie. So like for the history of comic books, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, you can't have a conversation about how they changed the 80s and 90s without having a discussion about the Crow. You can't. It
Right,
really
right.
kept comics alive. Marvel and DC stand on the shoulders of giants sometimes when their company's dipping, when their stock price is dipping. They stand on the shoulders of the little guys who are still being creative. That's where your Invincibles come from. That's where your Crows come from. So like those companies that you love so much only really exist sometimes and survived certain crashes because indie books were as good as they are. So I love indie books.
Yeah, no, indie books are great. I just was watching that thing earlier about Mickey Mouse going into public domain. That was interesting.
Yeah, buddy.
They were talking about it's kind of come full circle because Dave says, ahem, Blade.
I look, I enjoy the parts of Blade that are enjoyable, but I would ask, like, when's the last time you sat down, put your phone down, and said, I'm going to watch this as a movie? It's not great. But, like, the scenes that are awesome are awesome.
He says Blade doesn't exist without the Crow. But Blade paved the way for a lot of the MCU.
It was a Guillermo del Toro movie before Guillermo del Toro was Guillermo del Toro.
Yeah. It's good stuff. Yeah, no, who was it? He just showed up. Wesley Snipes just showed up on somebody's stream recently, and his screen name was OG Daywalker.
Oh, that's kind of cool, but that's also kind of sad. It's kind of cool, but it's kind of sad.
It was a stream about some new comic series that was being produced, which he was part of.
Okay, fine.
And so his screen name was OG Daywalker, though. So.
Okay, that's fine then. if he's doing it for money, that's fine then.
Yeah. Let's see what's Angry says. Only Steamboat Willie, early Mickey. Yes, I saw that they said only Steamboat Willie will be allowed to be, or Steamboat Mickey. The early interpretations of Mickey are the only ones that will be able to use for.
Yeah, Richard, absolutely. Yes. Hellboy movies were indie. Hellboy paved the way for movies being Marvel movies.
Richard, yes. Hellboy movies for sure.
Okay, but connection though, because the first Blade was brought up in defense of early comic book movies being good, and that was Guillermo del Toro, and then he brings up Hellboy, Guillermo del Toro. I think we owe the man a debt of gratitude for keeping indie comic books and small Marvel movies alive.
Yeah. No, I mean, I have much respect for that guy. He's got, I mean, every movie I've ever watched of his are great. I watched some of his foreign stuff that's never come out in the U.S. and it's like just amazing stuff. He says Blade 2 was Del Toro. Stephen Norrington was the first.
Still true. Everything I said was still true. I was wrong, but everything I said is still true. It's all factual.
Dan says his favorite books to read are indies.
Yeah, I don't. So even the financial side of it. So this is the argument against that. Even the financial side against indies. These are books that are independent, right? So there's smaller print count, and they became more popular than other mainstream characters from the big three. So like right now, like Invincible, fight me. Invincible right now is more popular than Miss Marvel. Am I wrong?
Yeah, absolutely. Wesley Snipes will always be Miss Noxzema Jackson to me. Okay. Dave says he just had to type. Yeah, no, I mean, yeah, there's so much great stuff that's indie that has enriched the zeitgeist that, I can't see. I was very frustrated with the statement that the indie books weren't worth investing in. I mean, and I'm very frustrated. So I had to get rid of my books a long time ago, and a large portion of my collection was dedicated to stockpiling books like Comico Primer, or the first appearance of Grendel. I had multiple copies of the first Crow. But they were all never worth anything more than like $20-$30 a piece. I was always like, oh, these are going to be great someday. And then now they're huge. But Walking Dead, there you go.
Yeah.
Saved comic books in the early 2000s.
And lest we forget, comic book fans, all your precious Alien, Predator, and early Star Wars was all Dark Horse.
It's true. And I don't think you actually named the book with the Smurfs. You were talking about it,
Oh,
but I
it
don't think
was
you actually named it.
it's a hard one. It's a hard one. Let me go back to eBay. It's because it's I don't speak German. Purchase history. It was called Spirou, Spirou, and it has a number 1071, and
Right. It's
it's
a
from
blue cover, right?
it's a
Is it a
blue
blue cover?
cover, and it has from 1958, and the name of the story in it is The Flute with Six Holes.
So 1958. So
58.
almost golden age. And how long was it before we saw Smurfs in the US?
That's a good question.
So
Smurfs.
58 to like what, 80 something, I would bet. Early 80s. I remember going into like some little shop in a mall, and they had a one of those glass case towers, and they had all the different little Smurf figures you could pick from, all the different. I mean, for those of you younger generation guys, I mean, yeah, there were guys and gals. There were my body is a flute with six holes, says Dave.
Yeah, so
So
the show appeared, and I mean, I know I wasn't exposed to the Smurfs through books or anything, so maybe the comics came a little earlier, but it says the show originally.
Comics were later after the
Yeah,
show.
no, I meant like toys and stuff, no, I meant like the comics. So like, did they bring them over in the newspaper? I don't know.
Oh no, I think the first we saw the Smurfs in comics was Marvel's Smurfs, which was later in the 80s.
But the Smurfs TV show was 81 to 89, so 8 years for a kids cartoon show. That's laudable.
It's a good run. Yeah,
it's a good run.
That's
so
a good run.
Yeah,
and they kept kind of the same formula, as opposed to like Scooby-Doo changed so much over the time period that it was on. It was went from being like the mystery solving show to Scooby and Scrappy and all the other goofy Scooby kid or Scooby family characters.
And it was kind of like a TRL, in that like every episode they would have like guest stars. They would have like, for the time, they would have like big names.
Right. Yeah.
Like the Monkeys and thanks,
yeah.
Dan. I'll definitely do a video on that. I'm going to do a video this week about the difference between valuable and rare. But
Batman
when the
and Robin
books
appeared in the Batman and Robin appeared in
Adam West.
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, that Scooby-Doo book, though, that's a big book. That's another super low print run, important cultural.
But I don't care, because that's not his first appearance. It's his first comic appearance. Sure.
Oh yeah, I mean, but if you're a comic person, it matters. But,
yeah, I mean, if you're a comic person, it matters.
Let's see. I mean, it's like saying like the Aliens comic isn't the first appearance of aliens, but it is the first appearance of aliens in comics, or the Predator. It's the Angry Artist says, I was fortunate growing up in the 70s. We had Spider-Man on the Electric Company. I remember that for sure. That was all I would watch Electric Company for, with Spider-Man. As soon as he showed up, I walked out of the room. Greatest Hulk to be on the screen, Buck Rogers, Battlestar Galactica, etc. Fun times for sure. I remember the first episodes of Buck Rogers and Battlestar Galactica for sure. Those were great. Yes, Batman was a guest star in Scooby-Doo.
And so were the Harlem Globetrotters. Were like
there were some goofy ones. Yeah, for sure. Over the old 80s, they would show the lineup of the cartoons that was going to be on in the comic books. Would have the like, look for your new Saturday morning lineup, and it would show like who was gonna. And I was like, oh, so they had like Tarzan. I love the Tarzan show they had on for a while, and the Lone Ranger cartoon. I love the old Sunday morning. You used to wake up and they'd have all of the old serial shows on early in the morning, like Lone Ranger and the old Superman serials and all that would be on early in the morning on Sunday mornings, and then they have the monster movie in the afternoon.
My dad was one of the last dads who could bribe the cable guy and get free cable.
Right,
So
right,
like that's back in the day when all it took was a box, and like
right,
they didn't record who had
right.
boxes. They could write it off as like defective and then sell it for like $200 or something. So my dad bought the box, but he bought like 5 of them. Every room in the house had all the channels, and so I had Sci-Fi Channel when I was in 3rd grade. So 1993.
Okay,
And Sci-Fi Channel in 93 had something called Saturday Anime, where they would just like for the first it was like 8 a.m. to like 1, they just played whatever they had. And so you'd watch like Bubblegum Crisis and Ronin Warriors. Just good. They would show the movies too. Like that's how I saw not Slayers. That's how I saw Slayers for the first time.
right on. I just watched yesterday a movie called Memories by the creator of Akira.
Okay.
It was really good. It was like a little montage 3-story movie. Really, the animation was amazing.
My
Very the
wife and
first,
I
the
are
first
watching Yuri on Ice for me the 3rd time, for her the 2nd time.
that's your that's the ice skating boys,
Ice
right?
skating, beautiful ice skating boys, beautiful boys ice skating. It's
There you
lovely.
go.
It's a lovely show. The music's awesome. The animation's great.
My sister is very much into all things Asian culture. So she's into the whole K-pop thing and yeah, she's got all these collectors little wand things that I guess over there they take to the shows that light up, and
Yeah, oh yeah, sure. I
she's
just
got
saw
all.
Baby Metal. Me and your sister would get along.
There you go. There you go. Yeah, probably would.
Yeah. Has she gone to
Except
Japan?
no, no. She's only well. Her husband was in the military. I think they were looking at getting stationed over there, but they just ended up staying stateside. Well, they were in Hawaii for a while, but
We went back in 2018 for 2 weeks.
I've seen pictures.
Dude, it was the best trip. It was the best.
That was
And
your trip where you
I've
went
been to
for.
Dollywood, so like I think I know what the best is.
Did you get the VIP experience?
At Dollywood? No.
You told me you're the sucker for the VIP experience.
I am. This is so like every tower you go to. So when you go to either Tokyo Tower or when you go to Skytree's like they're the biggest tower in Asia. They have 2 floors. There's like here's the base level. You can come in and take a tour about the history of the building and how we built it. And then the second level, which is a mini observation deck. But if you pay us more money, we'll take you to the super observation deck. We're at the very top. They charge you for what level you want to go to. And we kept paying for the top levels.
Angry Otter says he lived in Tokyo for 3 years but never got into anime.
Wow.
That would be a hard thing to do, to live there for that long and not get into anime.
I love anime.
I'm
a basic bitch. I'm basic though in that, like, Dragon Ball Z in the 90s. That's what got me into anime. Yeah, that's what got me into anime.
There's nothing to be ashamed of with that.
Well, no, I'm just saying it's super basic. It's not like, oh yeah, I had a video store that had Clannad, and I watched it, and boy, I got into anime. No, nothing so smart.
So yeah, we used to rent anime at my store when I had my stores, but I was gonna say Shonen Jump. A lot of those, I'm sure, are big important books for anime first appearances. You got your Dragon Ball Z and your.
Yep. I was just looking yesterday because I asked that very question. I said I'm a huge One Piece fan. One Piece is my jam. And I was like, I want to own the first Luffy. What's that look like? The first issue where they appear in the magazine, the lowest you can get, and they're all ungraded. I don't see any of them graded, but the lowest you can get was $950. And then there are reprints where they reprinted the identical magazine, ads and all. They reprinted it, and that one is like on the low end, like $250 for the reprint.
Is it so there was a Shonen Week. So I used to carry all this stuff in my store. Shonen Weekly and Shonen Jump. Shonen Jump came out monthly. Shonen Weekly.
This was a weekly.
Yeah. Yeah, those things, because they came out weekly, it was so hard to, as a store, you're basing your stuff on turns, right? And like that stuff would just pile up, and then it would pile up, and then it would all go away. Then it would pile up, and then it would all go away.
Yeah, someone would come in and they buy it on discount or something?
No, they would just, they just go, oh my god, I can't find this anywhere, and they buy everything, and then so yeah, it was difficult.
But yeah, so I also looked up. Then I looked up the Goku. Doesn't exist. The original version of the book that you can get. I think if you might have to go to Japan and buy it at a specialty shop.
Callie says he's looking at the comic I used for my thumbnail today. Guy just didn't want to sell it.
Oh, is that Atomic War one?
Yeah, I have one. I've got several people who are interested in it. So
how much? The one that I saw in a video recently was guy was selling it and it was ungraded and he was asking for $3,000.
Right.
And then I think the guy ended up buying it. But like, is yours? I think that was like maybe like a 3.5.
Mine's pretty nice. It has a little bit of mouse chew on one corner.
Okay.
But it's pretty nice other than that. It has that cover hides a lot of flaws really well, but I would say conservatively it's probably like a 4.550 probably. Yeah, it is a beautiful book. And I didn't realize how valuable it was. I just saw it at a shop and it was like, I'm like, I've seen that somewhere, and they had it in a. You guys are gonna beat me up, but they had it in a pile of stuff for $5, and I was like, oh, I've seen that somewhere. I should pick that up.
That's great.
We got home and went, holy crap!
So, do you keep it because your connection to it is it's the best deal you ever found?
No, I'm not particularly tied down to it.
Okay.
If I was. I'm considering taking offers on it because I want to start like focusing in 2024 on getting a lot of my bigger grails and stuff that I want to pick up that are important to me. I know a lot of people are like, you're stupid because that's a golden age book and it's a huge key. And silver age books aren't that hard to come by. So there's that.
The problem is the problem with golden age books. And so, if indie books caught smoke earlier, I'll throw shade. The problem with a book like that is it's not culturally significant. It's significant culturally in that it is like, there was a time when people were scared of atomic war, and here's a comic book about atomic war. But
that is kind of credited with being the first book that kicked off the atomic.
Yeah, but nobody in the world, like, that's not going to impress anybody at dinner. You're never going to be taught like, oh, remember when there were nuclear bombs and people were scared of them? Well, I have the first comic book that was about nuclear bombs and scaring them. Like, oh, okay, cool. It's not like saying like, oh, you've heard of Minnie Mouse, right? Well, the first time she ever appeared was in a comic book, and here it is. Like, oh wow, that's right. That's kind of neat. It doesn't have that like impress the guy in line at the grocery store for 2 seconds when you're sharing stories. So that's it. I know that's a silly way of like quantifying it, but how significant?
No, that's kind of the thought process that I've got. I'm like, what's more important to me? Do I have, to have that book, or to make some headway on getting the first appearance of Doctor Strange or something? So
okay, let's say your book sells for $5,000.
Okay,
$5,000. You've already paid the taxes. It's $5,000 is what you have left. What are you buying in a single sitting? Because you're trading comics for comics. Let's pretend that you have no bills. There's no credit card you want to clean up for $500. We're just going to pretend that it's comics for comics.
Right. I know one of the books that's like top of my list that I want to get is the Strange Tales, the first appearance of Doctor Strange. I forget what issue
with that Paste Pot Pete cover.
Yeah.
you can get like a 4.0 for maybe like 2,500, 3,000. It's actually not.
Yeah, I'd probably go for the highest grade copy I could get of that, because I think it's criminally undervalued. I think
it is very undervalued. What is it? What's the name of Strange Tales? What?
Strange Tales. I don't know what issue number it is. Chat will probably be Strange Tales 110.
110.
I like that book says.
Okay, so I'm pretending.
The only thing the big knock on it is it doesn't have Doctor Strange on the cover, and it's kind of a lame cover, but still very important book.
So the high, I'm trying to find. So what I do is I scroll down and I find the highest. So if you had $5,000, you don't you want a blue label. I'm assuming you don't want restored.
Yeah, yeah.
Blue label 5.5, $5,000 or best offer, $15 shipping. I bet you could knock off like $400. So you could say like $4,600 and you don't have 5.5.
There you go. There you go. Yeah. So that's one of the most important ones, I think, just because of the price, where the price sits right now. I think it's going to increase, and it's more attainable for me than some of the other big books that I want to get, like other big ones that I want to get.
Like
Hulk one. I mean, that's
Hulk.
way out of that range, though.
We're talking like 15,000 for like what's with it? What's it called when they tear off the trade dress and send it back to the publisher?
Oh, the returns copy. Yeah.
Yeah, you're right now. It's like 13 grand.
DC's a 5.0 for 3,999 right now. So there you go. And you're saying I could get a 5.5 though. But
yeah, I do see.
Yeah,
I see the 5.0, and that's 399. So you could get a 5.5 for $600 more if you talked them down, or you could, take yourself out to dinner or something, buy a new pair of shoes, and then get the 5.0 for 4,000.
Can I get the pink Barbie ones?
You can. Yeah, here's this is what I'm talking about. But in a restored, you can spend $3,700 and get a 6.5.
Probably less than that, considering the demand for restored books, especially for a Silver Age restored book.
Oh, I think it's hysterical. I think I literally do. I think our children will be this age, and they're going to be like, "What the hell is wrong with you?"
Yeah, right.
Like, what are you talking about? Like, all the books are restored. All the Golden Age books that you guys get wet over are all restored.
I think like some of the more important books to me that are probably less attainable would be FF1, AF15, Journey into Mysteries 83 first Thor.
That's actually, believe it or not, I would say that's in terms of books that have peaked and I don't think are going any higher and seem to be going down. Doctor Strange is, I think, as low as he deserves, as he doesn't deserve to be. I think he deserves to be way higher. And then Thor is the next one on the list. Like, you can get like a 3.0 Thor. You can get like a 3.0 for probably like $4,000. Like you're paying like 1,000 more than for each grade point.
Great Hunter Comics says he loves getting restored books. Says the only way he has some of the books that he does. Callie says he paid $1,300 for his CGC 3.5 Stan Lee signed copy of 110. It's like a DD1 in value. It just doesn't hit the numbers it deserves.
Yeah, Daredevil. That's another one. Daredevil should not be as low as Daredevil is.
Yeah, I'm looking at like so like the ones that I'm listing off are early print runs. They have the weird circle around the 10 cents usually for the pricing because they're the very early Marvel books. So like the Journey into Mystery, the Fantastic Four, AF15. Like I remember we were talking the other day. You said I was saying, no, AF15 would be high on my list. And you're like, you can't afford it. You can get a Spider-Man #1. I'm like, I don't. It's not the first appearance of Spider-Man. I mean,
well, okay. So here's the thing, because I didn't. When you talk to someone and you disagree with them, and then weeks later you're in the shower and you're like, oh, that's what I should have said. Like,
I didn't say. It's like when you get in an argument with somebody. Oh, I should have had that comeback.
That's what I'm saying. So I was talking to Alan. Alan came up again, and he was like, "No, X-Men 93. Is it 93 and not Giant Science?
94.
He was saying like X-Men 94 is the first appearance of those characters. It's not Giant Size X-Men." And I was like thinking to myself later in the shower, I was like,
He's wrong.
No, I know. But there are people that believe that. And that's why that's why 94 was more expensive forever than Giant Size X-Men. Giant Size X-Men was seen as a side book.
It was because 94 is part of the run of Uncanny. Yes. And Giant Size X-Men isn't necessarily part of the run for Uncanny. So.
Right. So that's, I mean, but I'm saying those people exist. So then you could say, like, wouldn't Spider-Man be one then, using that logic? Wouldn't Spider-Man be one be the first appearance of Spider-Man, and AF-15 is just not the first? It's not. It's not a.
In that flawed logic that Alan was using, yes.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. So I thought of that weeks later in the shower.
Yeah. No, I mean, AF-15 is probably one of my super mega grail that I want to get. But have you heard the story that I missed one of those at a garage sale just recently?
Just recently.
Yeah, I passed a garage sale while I was on duty for work, and I was like, "Oh, there's a garage sale. It's kind of out in the hills." I'm like, "Oh, maybe I'll come back." And I was like, "Nah." And then the next day, I was just got home from work, was sitting down to eat dinner, and I got a phone call from a lady, and she says, "Hey, I got referred to you by a friend of a friend of a friend. They say you buy comics, and you've always been fair with everybody." So I was like, "Hey, cool." Like that reputation preceding me. So I was like, "Sweet." And she says, "Hey, can you come out and look at my stuff? I've got a bunch." I'm liquidating. She says, "I'm in my 70s and I'm liquidating my mother-in-law's estate." And I was like, "Oh, so I guess she was in her 90s." And I was like, "Okay." So I get there and I'm looking through this box of comics, and it's like maybe I would say like 40 comic books, 40, 50 comic books. And flipping through, and it's all mainly like funny animal books and that kind of stuff, right?
Still good.
Oh yeah. I mean, but at the time I was kind of strapped for cash, so I was like, yeah. I'm like, I know a guy who runs an antique store, and she had tons of antiques. Like I pulled up, it's Twilight, and her entire yard is covered in tables and sawhorses with plywood and all this glassware and antiques all over it. And so go through, and I'm like, yeah, I'm not seeing anything that really super excites me. There was a Tales to Astonish. I think it's this. It was a prototype issue of Uncle Ben and Aunt May, and but it was like the middle, one of the pages in the middle had been torn out and it just stuck back in the book. But the cool thing about it is it had every page, just what every page it said. Don't miss the Hulk. You won't believe the Incredible Hulk. It was like ads, like the text ads at the top and bottom of each page for the Incredible Hulk. Oh, this is kind of neat. And it's like I think in the condition it's in, probably like a $200 book or whatever. But I hooked her up with the guy, the antique guy, and they talked on the phone. And she's like, "Hey, he's going to come out tomorrow." And I'm like, "Cool." And she says, "There's nothing there that interests you?" She's like, "Even the Spider-Man one?" Yeah, I think it was Strange Tales 97, Kelly. It says like "When a World Dies" on the cover. But I said, "The Spider-Man book." She goes, "Yeah, he had a guy under his arm and he's swinging through the sky." And I said, "You had Amazing Fantasy 15?" She's like, "Yeah, the kid that was helping me set up for the
Oh my
garage sale
God,
was so
lovely.
excited." And she's like, "That little bastard, he stole it." And I was like, "Well, if I was you, I'd be calling the police." Because I'm like, if you get a hold of that book, I will put you in touch with the right people to get that sold for you. I mean, I didn't have the kind of money to buy it from her for a fair price, so I was going to help her like move it. And she says, "Well, it's a friend of the family. The family is a friend of the family. It's been a long time." She's like, "I don't want to cause that kind of
How
drama."
old
And
is
I'm
this lady?
late 70s.
I would tell myself to survive. I would tell myself that she's lying for attention so that I
Okay.
would not go crazy.
Yeah, because it drives me crazy that there's some kid in a nearby
No, just
town that
I
has an
like
Amazing
you'll
Fantasy 15.
just put yourself, like, do what they do in Law and Order and just disassociate and just like disassociate and tell yourself she's crazy and that she's lying for attention. And
I don't
then
think she wouldn't have known what she was saying though when she said it was Spider-Man and he had the guy under his arm. And I'm like, oh
she
my
couldn't have
God.
Googled it for attention. Most
She
valuable
late
Spider-Man book.
70s. She didn't even know how to use a cell phone.
But for nothing else to be in the collection that looks like that.
No, there was well that Strange Tales 97 is the same time period. It's the same, it's the right time period. It's the circle 10-cent cover. Yeah, it was the
I
right.
don't know. I don't know of anybody that like of an old age that bought comic books and they bought like 30. Like if you bought comic books when you were older, you bought a lot of comic books. Like it's never the person that has like
Yeah, I don't
that
know.
like I've My uncle collected comic books his whole life. Here they are. Like, it's
And
never that little. It's always like, no,
Callie
there's
says it's the
boxes.
same year. That the AF-15 is the same year as that Strange Tales.
Yeah, but then he just like
So
stopped collecting after like buying 3 comic books. You know what I mean? Like, there
yeah,
has
who
to be.
knows? She said that the books had been held by the mother-in-law, but they were books that had belonged to her sons and then had been read by family members, and down through the ages, people had taken books here and there and whatever.
Oh
And
yeah,
this
that
is what was
happens.
left. But still, what was it? I heard on the news the other day, somebody got not the other day, like a year ago, somebody got a box of comics at a yard sale in San Francisco for $25, and it had an Amazing Fantasy 15 in it.
I mean, yeah, that's the lottery ticket. You hope you get stuff like that.
Right. So, Buried says, I used to help out at a comic shop. I believe the story of at face value. Lots of people only have a small stack of comic books from back in the day and what have you. That's true. Like I don't know if you heard the story where the lady, I came in one morning, my employee opened up the store for me, and there was a paper sack rolled up on the counter. And I said, what's in that? He goes, you're going to want to have a look at that. And I said, okay, what's the story? He says, well, a lady came in. She said, I told my husband we're moving, we're moving to a smaller place, and we're not hauling around all this crap that we've had. And I said, okay, well, what is it? He says, take a look. And I opened it up, and the top book inside the bag was Hulk #1. And it was probably 30 books. There was a Flash 123, the Flash of Two Worlds.
Mm-hmm.
There's a whole bunch of super cool books in there, but it's probably a stack of like 30 books in there that were all pretty decent books. I'm like, her husband's going to come back looking for that. I said, what do we give her for? He says, that's it. She just left them and said, have them, and left. And I'm like, okay. And the store we had a huge attic. And so I'm like, put them up in the attic. If the guy comes asking for them, give them to him. I'm like, and the guy never came back asking. So a year later, we're like, okay, finders keepers, I guess. So, but
And so you sold it, I'm assuming.
the Hulk one went into my collection and was part of my collection for a short period of time. And then somebody came in and asked me if I had any early Marvel silver keys. And at the time, I got a fair price for it at the time, but it was like, I get $1,200 for it.
Whoa.
It was in pretty decent
Well,
shape
what year
too.
was this, roughly?
I want to say late 90s, early 2000s.
Okay.
Yeah.
Back when the keys were, you could reasonably get them.
Yeah, I mean, later after that time period, I picked up an X-Men #1, and it was in super high grade. And unfortunately, shortly thereafter, I had to liquidate my collection to take care of my family. But still kicking myself. That thing was, I took it to a shop, and they were like, "This is conservatively an 8.0," and I was like, "Oh."
Problem is, those books aren't selling. Like, with everything crashing right now, I never see 9s or like even 8s that often on eBay, because like
Yeah,
people would rather, if they're of that value, they'd rather stick it in the vault and say, I'll try again in a decade.
yeah, yeah. So that one still rattles my cage, though. One of those things, like you say, you got to disassociate yourself and go, well, that was then, that happened. That was a
Yeah.
different life.
Thank God I
So
had the book to sell when I needed the money.
yeah, yeah. Like you just had, didn't you have it was one of your questions with Mr. Akins was, when is a time you should,
Yeah.
and the consensus was should is when your family is in dire need, and that was one of those situations.
Yeah. People
So
are more important than paper.
right, for
Unless it's
sure.
like a third cousin or something. Like, I'd trade a third cousin. Like one that I don't know, but I know that I'm related to. I'd let them get kidnapped or whatever.
He says his buddy Callie says he paid $5,000 for a 2.0 about 3 years ago. Richard said something about 8 accents. I think it was monkey maulings or something like that, right?
Yes. Yeah. If like one of your family members,
Chimpanzee mauling.
yeah, is attacked by, and they need like a new
Have you,
face.
have you seen Nope?
Yeah.
The movie Nope? Yeah, the monkey mauling at the beginning of that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. On the TV show set.
Yeah. He says they wanted $7,500, but he walked away with it for $5,000 cash. Well, that's what you think. We were just talking about cash is king at the shows. A lot of people were asking us if prices come down at the end of shows, and then also we're talking about cash being the big negotiating factor a lot
Yeah,
of
because you could
times.
say because with a you could say like automatically the tax of because it's I think it's a $600 threshold. If you sell an object for more than $600, the federal government gets their like 8%. So like you could
Right.
just like with any cash sale, you could just reasonably argue that like, look, if I'm paying in cash, it should be 10% cheaper. So if
Yeah,
it's a
they pushed that thing back the where they're trying to track all the internet sales and everything for another like year or two, I think. What I heard,
sure, yeah, I still
but
got to
it's like,
declare
yeah,
it.
that just bothers me. The whole thing of like, anytime you do anything with your debit card or your Venmo or your any kind of
Yeah,
Cash App, and it's like the thing that like. So my wife, I have a different Venmo separate from the family, and my wife gives me my spending money portion. And I'm like, they never come after me and say like, "Well, you got all this money put in your Venmo." I'm like, that money came from me. It was my money put into my account. What are
yeah.
you talking about?
But yeah, I
So
mean, I'm gonna bring a decent amount to Terrificon because I want to have that experience. I want to have the experience to say like,
right,
look, I know you've got 5 on it, but 4 in cash. Like I want to make that YouTube short. You know what I mean? Like you see those with like
right.
the basketball shoes and the Funko Pops and the Marvel cards all the time or the Pokemon cards. Someone will be like, "Oh, I know you got 6 on it, but like I'm feeling like 5 and a quarter." Like, and I would love to just have a couple of those videos. That'd be so
That's
fun.
Dan. So I don't know if you watched my Frankenstein swap meet video with Dan, but Dan was like, "Oh my God!" He's like, "You would walk up to a table and they would leave. You would leave with a book, or they would all be smiling and happy, even though you offered them like 50% on their books." And I was like, "Yeah, because I could feel it out." And I would be like, "I'm interested in that book, but I don't even want to make an offer on it because I feel like it would be insulting. So I'll just let you can hang on to it. It's cool." And they'd be like, "No, no, I want to hear your offer." And I would be like, "Okay, well, you asked for it." Kind of just the whole apologetics way around of just kind of like, okay, well, I am interested, but you know, I don't want to.
I love negotiating at cons.
Uh-huh.
I love it. I really enjoy it. And my friends used to make me do it for them, like because they would feel too awkward. But the
Right,
way I do it is I say like I'll tell you what I'm willing to pay, and then they go, well, how
right,
about up here? And I was like, that's not what I said. I'm offering you what I'm willing to pay. If you think my number is too low, you can tell me to kick rocks, and I will. And then you can hope to get that number out of the next guy. I'm telling you, here's where I'm at. And then I'll
right.
wait. I'm the most patient guy in the world. You think you're the only guy with books here? I'll go over to the next booth. I'll talk to him. And then maybe I'll be out of money by the time you come to your senses. But I'm offering you
That's
what I'm
true.
willing to pay.
That's true. I mean, yeah. Okay, what did he say? Other two keys. Richard says other two keys you're looking to get. I think I know what they are. Other two keys I'm looking at to get. Richard. And Dan says that is a great topic. Negotiation strategies. Yeah. Side Quest says, "What's up, guys? A sale with money in their pocket is better than lint in their pockets." That is true.
Oh,
Um,
the other two that I wanted, Richard was asking me. So it's 3. I named off 5. I named off the first Lady Death, Evil Ernie 1, got it. 7-5 autographed. And then the other one was House of Secrets 92 for Swamp Thing. I got it. 4-5. It is a hard 4-5. That book is clearly pressed. So like it is flat as all
so
get out.
it's maxed out to its maximum
It is
potential.
a maximum 4-5. It is a 4-5. If it dies and it gets reincarnated, it'll come back as a 4-5. Um, but it's beautiful. It's the best 4-5 you can get. And
Right,
then the
right,
other 3 that I wanted, Showcase 22, first Green Lantern, because I don't care about Hal Jordan, believe it or not, but I love the core. And so like
right.
the first concept of the Green Lantern core, there are rings and you pass them on when you die, was Showcase 22. I love that book. Brave and the Bold 28, first Justice League. I love the League. And then Adventure Comics 247, the first appearance of the Legion of Superheroes, That's my tip top. That's my tip top.
Did you see the one that Collecting Casually posted today? It was the one where it was the first appearance of the Legion of Supervillains. It's the same cover.
They homage that so many times. I love that cover.
I was like, oh.
Yeah. No, I love that. I would sell books tomorrow. Books that I care about. I would sell books that I care about to make room if like a good copy of that. I see myself at like a 3040. It's an old book. But I'd be at like a 3040 with that, and I'm looking at like $3,000 minimum for like a good a 40 copy, like $3,000, 3,500, maybe 3,600, somewhere in there. But I really want that book.
Yeah. Oh, so you had a bunch of books that you got today. Do you want to show those off?
They're super quick, but here is.
I'm gonna make you big real quick.
What's happening? This is Night Star from the Kingdom. These are all 50 cents. 50 cents at a flea market. This is in Kingdom Come. This is the child between Firestar and Dick Grayson.
Nightwing.
Yeah. Then we got Son of the Bat, which I haven't read this yet, but I guess this is Damian Wayne. Maybe it's not named Damian Wayne. Maybe he's a different name.
Sure, it looks like Raish. Yeah.
Yeah, Son of the Bat.
Yeah, so those came out like 3 or 4 years after Kingdom Come. They were pretty good though.
And then valuable reprints. This guy had a huge collection of the Cerberus bi-weeklies. These are the.
So you got number one right there.
Yeah, but this is the 1988 reprints.
Right.
So number one, 2, 4, like it is not a lot I need to fill it in. And then it goes all the way up to the High Society arc. But it's
cool.
Yeah, I mean, like if you're indie books, if you're into like reading comics, like I would hope all of you are into reading comics. Which
like I was saying, you need to hit up Mike too, because his neighbor had a Cerberus #1. I think it was one of the books that he still had after that show when they sold that collection.
I'd love one of those. You can get like a 4.0 should be around like 15 to 1800 for like a 4.0, but like a lot of them, they're sturdy books. A lot of them survived all the way to the 6s, and then now you're talking like $2,000 and up, and
they're sturdy, but they're oversized, right? So they were more susceptible to damage because they were harder to store.
Yeah, they were pretty much the same as the Turtles books.
Yeah. Oh, take you off of full screen there. Or was that it?
Yeah, that was it. That was literally it about that.
Okay.
And then the other books that I bought today were the Johnny the Homicide Maniac and the blah blah blah. JTH, yeah, JTHM and Smurfs.
Right on. Well, we are at the 1 hour marker. I know you said that was kind of what you were wanting to set as your.
Yeah, I'm gonna go play some Spider-Man 2.
Yeah. All right. Well, I appreciate you coming on, buddy, and hanging out.
I appreciate.
And I did want to say that I really thought the way that you said goth earlier was really great. When you were talking about the whole goth culture.
I was quite the fishnet boy. I did the fishnet, I did the hair gel, I did the eyeliner.
Oh my gosh, I was the guy liner with the big long bangs and the trench coat and the combat boots. Yep.
Oh, yeah. I couldn't afford like a real trench coat, so I got a like detective trench coat. like a Dick Tracy kind of trench coat, and I wore that like it was a trench coat, but it wasn't a trench coat.
Mine was like this weird, because we're up in the Northwest, so it was like this weird black denim with a green plaid interior. like a dark forest green interior. So it was interesting. But well, thank you, Richard, and thank you, Dan. Thanks for everybody for hanging out, and thanks again for coming on, Ricky. And Happy New Year to everybody. I'm sure we'll probably, I might do another bit of content before. I'm thinking about maybe doing a top pickups of the year live stream.
Yeah, that'd be great. End of the year pickups, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, because like I was thinking about it today. I'm like, man, I got some great books this year, but I wasn't really. I was like, oh, I got that this year. I got that this year. I'm like, oh, I should do a video. So
Everybody subscribe to both of us, especially me.
yeah, Tina dropped a link to Ricky's channel. Thank you,
Oh,
Tina. Happy New Year.
Tina.
Tina's a great wrench for me, and I super appreciate her. She always comments on all of my stuff. She is awesome. So, and she just dropped a link to you again.
Such a nice person.
There you
Thank
go.
you.
Where are you at now, Ricky? What's your subtotal?
210.
210. There we go.
210.
On the road to 300.
10 trillion.
So I just lost like 5 subs in the last week, I think. Can you do a show about some of your drawings, says Richard? Yeah, I could do something about my artwork. I'm actually thank you so much, says your art is awesome. Appreciate that. I'm actually coloring a piece for Steppo. So that's coming along. I don't usually do color, so I'm working on that. Which I got to get that done, and then we're gonna. That's the key to coming over and hanging out with Steppo is he wanted to purchase that piece, and then we're gonna hang out. And he's also interested in looking at some Golden Age books that I have to add to his collection. So he said, I don't do a lot of trading. And I said, well, you could trade me that filthy green stuff. Oh, well, that would work too. And I'm saying, I'm absolutely down for that. So I don't know how much he's going to have of that with having just, if you guys haven't watched yet, watch the video on Alan Comic Collector Geek's channel that he did tonight with Steven revealing his big super duper mega key Grail pickup. It was really impressive. So check it out. But Steve, thanks for hanging out. And again, here I'm dragging it all out. So share your love of comics with everyone you meet. You never know where it'll lead you. Get you to hang out with a lot of cool friends like Ricky and such. So, all right, guys. Thanks. Bye.